Hi there, it's Dr. Mark McKinney. Say a few words about Hartford Communities That Care. For decades, literally, we have worked with this great team across this region, and we are thankful every day that through St. Francis Hospital and many other like places, they are skilled, ready to go, and on any evening, they're going to show up, help people get to the right care, get the right place, get the right care, and we're great partners with them. I don't think our city could survive a month without the skills and the commitment of Hartford Communities That Care. Keep supporting them. Best investment you'll make.
Hi.
My name's JC McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
You know, I would hate to think of Hartford without Hartford Communities That Care. Ever since the days of Stump the Violence, Hartford Communities That Care, Andrew Woods and his crew have been those folks on the street talking to young people, reasoning with young people. They're the guys that get up out of their beds when everybody else is asleep. They're the guys that go meet families who are distressed. Again, I would hate to think of Hartford without Hartford Communities That Care. I think that Andrew Woods and this organization does a yeoman's job in terms of trying to maintain the sanity, sometimes in very chaotic neighborhoods. And again, Andrew and Hartford Community Cares is one of the few organizations I sometimes think they're underappreciated, they're underfunded, but they always manage to be on the scene when they need to be on the scene. So again, I would just hate to imagine Hartford without Hartford Communities That Care.
I believe that Hartford Community That Cares is important because we need an agency that advocates for our children, for our families, and for our community. I believe that our community needs strong men and women to make sure that we model for our kids, because our children don't need to necessarily look at the models on TV or in the sport. They need to see models right here. Andrew Woods and I worked together when I was a legislator. We had the youth summit for the young people. From there, he created the Hartford Communities That Care. So I've been involved with this organization before it started, and I'm just here and so proud of Andrew Woods and Hartford Communities That Care for what it does for the citizens of Hartford.
Hi, my name is Eddie Brown, Program Director at Hartford Communities That Care. I've been in the field of youth development and mentoring for the past 5 years, serving children, youth, young adults, and families. It has been an amazing experience since I have been on board with HCTC to help make a difference in the lives of our youth. Throughout my experiences, I've learned the importance of a good mentor, which is simply being the adult that has time for a child, who cares about that child, and who believes in that child. Here's a few points. Allowing the youth to understand their full potential, respects cultural differences, providing the prolonged relationship which helps the youth as they go through life, listens well, is stable, is a positive role model, nurtures a positive relationship that respects the mentee, reinforces mentee's success, shares decision-making with mentee, and last but not least, passion, wanting to make a difference. Practicing and applying these skills have been very vital in all the work I do to help assist and coordinate in the programs and services we offer at HCTC. I thank you for your time, and for all the mentors and role models out there, let's continue to be the change.
Yeah, Hartford Communities That Care means a lot, not only to me, but to the community. It was light years ahead of everybody when it came to research and looking at the violence in the community, that it was always had ideas and collecting, bringing people together, bringing youth together. How do we look at, we always said, who are the people in the streets and who are the people in the suites? And Hartford community have been both of them. They have been in the suites arguing for funds, whether it be at the state level, whether it be at the national level, whether it be in education, whether it be in training, whether it be in surveys. It has always been in tone with, how do young people solve their own problems collectively. Going back to the Fox years, men of color, you name it, they have been there, know what the solution is. So they were like light years ahead of everybody. When they were doing their first survey in middle school, looking at what are the things that young people, what are the problems they have, and what are the things that transition that they need to get through the neighborhood. And they knew that before. So when you look at the people that they developed and who came through and who stuck through there, had a lot of influence on thousands and thousands of young people. The problem was it never had the resources, but it always made it possible for other people to get the resources. Unfortunately, those resources never fell the way it should have. But Hartford Community That Care wasn't about money. It was about a commitment to the community, a commitment to young people, and regardless of the money was there, was not there, it would be there anyway. So that's what it means. You can't ask for a community, you can't ask for an organization that sacrificed 24 hours a day, twice on Sundays, out there after every shooting, every incident, organizing from not only from a neighborhood level, but a city level and a state level, as well as a national level.
I've been with Hartford Communities That Care since I was in 7th grade. And I tell you, when I started with the organization, I did not know how far I was gonna go. Mr. Woods taught me how to become a young man. He taught me how to be a productive citizen in society. He kept me out of getting involved in gang violence, kept me off the streets, and gave me an opportunity for greater. And one thing I can tell you is that, throughout my life, I've been through many things. But if it wasn't for Hartford Communities That Care, I wouldn't be where I am today. Because of Mr. Wood's leadership, I'm now a father of 2. I've graduated from college. I'm actually getting ready to complete my MBA, and I am on track for great things. A lot because of his leadership, and he does not get any of the credit at all that he deserves. And I just want to dedicate this to Mr. Woods for being there, for being in the gap when nobody else was there. I just thank you. And Hartford Communities That Care has celebrated now 20 years. This is a huge milestone for Hartford. Not just for me, not just for Mr. Woods, but for the Hartford community. You know all the things that we've done over the years, and we're going to continue to do greater things. Thank you.
I'm so honored tonight to be here and to help Andrew Woods with Hartford, the Executive Director of Hartford Communities That Care, and his 20th anniversary. No one else has demonstrated such hard work and dedication to our community, and I'm so honored to be here tonight, and we wish him well for the future, and we're all on his side working hard to make sure that we can all collectively achieve our goals for a better Hartford.
Hi, my name is Tyreek Marquez. I am a member of Hartford Communities That Care Youth Leadership. For the past 27 weeks, we have been examining the intersection between education, poverty, violence, and trauma in Hartford. I have learned a great deal based on research we have done, but I would like to tell a personal story. On August 27th, 2008, I attended a parade in the north end of Hartford when bullets began to fly and 1 person was killed. 6 people were injured, including myself. I was 7 years old and I was shot in my head, leaving me with partial paralysis, something I still live with every day. I struggle, but I overcome, and I am no different from any other teenage boy. This is why I do things in my community, such as awareness events with my mom and the Victims Against Violence group. I also do things with HCTC because we want to see change. Thank you for taking the time to hear my story.
Hartford Communities That Care means a lot to me and also to a lot of people in the north end of Hartford. Andrew Woods started Hartford Communities That Care from nothing. It has now grown into an institution that helps a lot of people. And so to me personally, it means that Andrew Woods and people like him have a mechanism by which to help people in Hartford. So that is why I, Cornell Lewis, am here today at the Hartford Communities That Care Gala to support Andrew Woods and all of his good work.
Yes, my name is Angela Thomas, and Hartford Communities That Care, I feel like I'm one of the ones that gave birth to it. I was there at the very start with Andrew, with its beginnings at Fox Middle School. We had originally started the Stump the Violence Youth Leadership Institute, and from there, we got the training on how to do strategic planning in communities. I really, really believe that the reason Hartford Communities That Care has been so successful is because of the strategic planning, and all of the actions that they take are based on data. Good luck to all, and I hope it'll be going on for the next 22 years.
All right, we're here this evening at the 20th anniversary for Hartford Communities That Care, and I actually brought a special guest, my mother, Miss Lovejoy. And what does Hartford Communities That Care means to me? Well, you know, I grew up with a strong mother who gave me some very strong values, and Hartford Communities That Care is really an extension of those values, not only for me personally, but for children in our community. What does it mean for children to have strong values?
A good foundation. A good foundation. That's all I want to say.
All right, she said a good foundation. We'll go with that. Stan, we'll turn it back over to you. Thank you, and congratulations, Hartford Communities That Care.
Hartford Communities That Care means a lot to me. I first started out along with Mr. Andrew Woods, and he is my mentor. I wouldn't know anything about working in the community, but Mr. Woods introduced me to all of it. So Hartford Community That Care has done a lot in the city of Hartford. We have helped a lot of people, and we'll continue. On this award I'll receive tonight, I will continue working. God bless all of you.
Been around now for 20 years, and I don't really see us moving as far as we did without this organization, especially for our young people. You know, I love Hartford Communities That Care. I'm one of the individuals who helped Andrew start the organization. Have a lot of pride in this organization. It means a lot to me because where we have grown in the last 20 years. I love the connective of communities and everybody coming together like this gala is going on right now. And we are totally blessed to have Hartford Communities That Care here still around in Hartford. And you know, right now I'm glad to be here. I just came up from Carolina after being retired in like 2 years and wouldn't miss this for the world. And I'm here and enjoying it.
Hartford Communities That Care. It's meant a whole lot to myself and the folks that I minister to in the North End Church of Christ, primarily because the focus is around young folk, and it's about actually empowerment of them in terms of within their own community, and also addressing the issues that are extremely tough issues, such as the aspect of violence. And at one particular time, the focal point was on violence being a public health issue, and the surveys and the data that was collected by young people was pretty impressive to me in terms of both empowerment and also addressing an issue from a very strategic base so that you could do something with the data, which I think leads us to this event tonight, which is a wonderful event for this annual gala that we're at, celebrating the number of years that they've been in place. So that's what it means to me. And I certainly like, I appreciate the high quality leadership that Mr. Woods has shown in leading the organization and his board of directors, and some of the folks that are the employees, which are young folk as well. So he's just done a tremendous job, and I'm really elated to be here tonight to celebrate with them.
Hello, my name is Destiny King. I am a member of the Hartford Communities That Care Youth Leadership Academy in the Young, Educated, and Determined to Succeed program. Over the past 27 weeks, I have been examining the intersections between education, poverty, violence, and trauma to develop policy and program recommendations. I served on the poverty work group, and the following is our recommendations. Organize resources to support entrepreneurs, expand efforts to provide highly qualified mentors for teens, to place priority on investments in affordable, high-quality childcare and early education, focus on giving people the tools to start new enterprises that will improve their circumstances and spur economic growth, as well as removing barriers to small business growth. Repair and strengthen the safety net to make sure there are safeguards in place that apply equally to all people. Reduce the large gaps between the very rich and the rest of society and make it easier for people to get into the middle class. Also, to address the gaps that persist for African Americans in educational attainment, employment, wages and income, family wealth and home ownership, health and infant mortality, and incarceration. Thank you for your time, and I hope you can support our recommendations.
Absolute pleasure to see so many beautiful people out here tonight. My name is Jeffrey Ogbar. I'm chairman of the board for Hartford Communities That Care. Several years ago, I met Mr. Andrew Woods about 2008 or so, and he invited me to visit the organization and talk to him and meet some of the board members. In 2009, I joined, and so for 9 years, I've had the pleasure of being part of a remarkable organization that has done such incredible work in the city of Hartford. As I mentioned last year, I was born in Chicago, Southside Chicago, Michael Reese Hospital, and we moved from Chicago to California. I finished first grade in Compton, California, and second grade in South Central Los Angeles. And over the course of my life, I've gotten a chance to go back and forth between the south side of Chicago and the south side of Los Angeles. And then went to the southern part of another city, went to Atlanta, southwest Atlanta for college. And in every case, I found conditions that were, in some ways, very disturbing, some ways inspiring. And coming to Connecticut, as many people, I'm sure everyone here might know, when you visit other places outside of Connecticut, you tell someone you're from Connecticut, they're like, oh, Connecticut. They're thinking of Greenwich, Westport, Darien, we're like a 1,100 square foot house, costs $700,000. And so they're thinking about Fairfield County and some of the most affluent places in the country. And as many of us know, the conditions that we often find in places like the south side of Chicago or South Central LA or Southwest Atlanta are conditions we find in the north end of Hartford. And in the north end of Hartford 20 years ago, Andrew Woods decided to do something about some of the pressing issues in the community. And of course, the fruits of that were realized in Hartford Communities That Care. Andrew has been involved with this organization for 20 years, but beyond that, he's been deeply involved in the community where he's a native son. As a child, he actually, although he doesn't look his age, he has a full head of hair. I don't. I'm younger than him, right? But Andrew was young enough to actually see people like Malcolm X come through Hartford. He's been here through the ups and downs. He was here when there were cases of civil unrest in the aftermath of Dr. King's assassination in 1968. He's seen the city in all sorts of ways, and he loves this city. He's committed to this city. He's dedicated himself to the city in so many ways. And to see so many people here tonight to celebrate the activities, the hard work that Mr. Andrew Woods has devoted, but he's never done this by himself. And anyone who knows him knows how incredibly humble he is. And he's been involved in something that has been much bigger than him. And this is a testimony to the love, support that many of you have given to Hartford Communities That Care, and the efforts of many of the people who are in the trenches, as we say. Brother Carl is out here, is one of many. I want you all to pay attention to the sponsors in the program who are essential to helping this event come to pass. In particular, one of our board members, Ms. Joanne Price, who is probably not happy that I brought her name up my mouth right now at this moment, and Fairview Capital. Applause and deserved. And we appreciate so many people who've been agents of change, who push for social justice, who push for positive policies and advancement in our communities. So with all that, I want to say that tonight we'll have a very nice time. We will, hopefully you'll get a chance to continue to meet each other, to talk to friends, see neighbors you haven't seen in a very long time, talk to some of the politicians that are here. We're excited to have. And I'm going to embarrass myself because I didn't have the names all written down. Actually, Andrew has in the program here acknowledgement of special guests. So he will make a point to acknowledge all those people. I'll wait. What I want to do right now, before we begin to eat and be heathens, I will have Senior Pastor A.J. Johnson come up and bless the food. Enjoy the night, beautiful people. Thank you very much for coming out, and we appreciate the support.
Good evening, everyone. I said, good evening, everyone. The Bible says, I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praises shall continually be in my mouth. Tonight, we are here to celebrate 20 years of leading, caring, and sharing. Can we please put our hands together for Andrew Woods and the Hartford Communities That Care? Come on, you can do better than that. I have personally worked with Andrew, and if anybody knows Andrew, he is very passionate about his community, and he is in the street day and night, meeting with families while we're good in sleep, right? We're getting that good sleep. Andrew is out doing the work that matters. So tonight, I hope that this is a celebratory occasion where we can celebrate their good work and the things that they're doing. I have the responsibility tonight, but before I pray, I just want to shout out my young people that are in his program. I want to shout out Alex Johnson. Alex, can you please stand and wave your hand? She's a member of our church. Tamaja Mitchell, can you stand? Ty, can you stand as well? Thank you. Yep, there you go. And David and Gerard, can you please stand? Can we celebrate the young people who are affected by this, who live in the north end of Hartford? Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, before we ask you for anything tonight, we just want to thank you for everything. We want to thank you for life, health, and strength. We want to thank you for allowing us to wake up and giving us the activities of our limbs. Lord, I ask tonight, Lord God, that you bring a spirit of peace in this place. Bring a spirit of relationship in this space. Lord, I'm asking you tonight, Lord God, that as we sit here, that we leave here with a new day. We know this day will not come until we as people make different choices. We pray now for those choices. May we come to see a day where the prison system becomes redemptive and not punitive. A day where the legal system learns to focus more squarely on the facts and not on the colors of our skin. A day where our schools are well funded as the needs demand. May our role models be allowed to excel when they thrive and not be taken down for their rich heritage. We know that this will require a shift in power, Lord. And this can be scary for us. Give us full of fear and hope. May we come to know grace so that our hearts are not hardened by the pain around us. There are so many stories that need to be told, God, and we need a chance to hear them. Widen our vision so that the history that is shared tonight and the history that's experienced tonight can touch us. We are most human when we see the humanity in others. Now, Lord, I ask that you bless every individual in here. I ask that you bless this food. In Jesus' name I pray. Can everyone say amen? Amen. Come on, can you put your hands together and give the Lord some praise? Oh, I didn't say play pity pat. I said, can you put your hands together and give the Lord some praise tonight?
Hello, my name is Damari Bournes, and I am a member of Hartford Communities That Care Youth Leadership Academy and a member of the Education Work Group. For the past 27 weeks, we have been examining the intersections between education, poverty, violence, and trauma, and to develop the following policy and program recommendations. 1. Address the lack of funding that results in limited academic offerings such as AP classes and college courses taken while in high school. 2. Correct the shortage of extracurricular and sports opportunities and repair and maintain facilities so they send the right message to children about the importance of education. 3. Recruit teachers of color and teach the history of institutional racism. 4. Support bullying, prevention, and trauma support programs. 5. Stop the closing of schools and libraries. Thank you for your time, and I hope you can support our recommendations.
I just have a few announcements, one of which is thank you for coming out tonight. It's taken us 20 years to get here, and my back is killing me. It went out a few days ago, and so if I look and appear to be stiff, I am. But again, I'm thankful and honored that you are here tonight. Just a few acknowledgments, and we're going to allow you to move on with your dinner, your plates, and so forth. First of all, I'd like to thank our staff, our board of directors who are here tonight. I want to acknowledge the many of them who have committed their years of being committed to this agency. I also want to recognize and acknowledge Reverend Ronald Holmes, as well as Reverend Gear from the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance, folks who have been committed members to our organization. The IMA has been with us for the entire 20 years of our existence. In our audience, we also have Councilwoman Arjo Winch, who has also been a staunch supporter of our agency since the beginning, as well as Councilwoman Cynthia Jennings. And Councilman T.J. Clark is also here, another staunch supporter. We have State Representative Josh Hall, who's here today. And I understand, we'll hold on to it. I understand that he also has brought a proclamation. At some point, we may have him come up and read that. Josh, we don't have a custom of having folks bring proclamations up. We appreciate it. We'll post it and everything else and so forth. We appreciate it. Okay. Well, all right. We also have in our audience, we have two former councilmen. And these are two gentlemen who have also been very supportive of this agency when they used to sit on council. And they're none other than Kyle Anderson and Ken Kennedy. In attendance, we also have Roxanne Denby Ellis, who's the president of the Greater Hartford Black Social Workers. And let me tell you, folks, I'm also a black social worker. When I started going for my MSW at the School of Social Work and I joined the black social workers, those are the folks who actually taught me everything that I know about doing the work that I do, and I'm eternally grateful to that organization. And then, of course, I want to mention there's a gentleman here who either flew up or drove up in his Jaguar from Washington, D.C., and his name is Carlton Hall. And just a little short blurb on Carlton. some of you know Kyrie Smith, who was also a seventh grader, was a seventh grader, who's now practicing attorney out in California. Joanne just happened to see him out there a couple of weeks ago. Well, when Carlton Hall recruited us, was looking for black males and females. They were looking to start a National Youth Leadership Academy to train young people around public policy work nationally. They couldn't find young black teens that understood policy work at the national level. Carlton happened to know of a handful of young people who knew that science. And the reason he knew it as a national trainer was because he helped us start Communities That Care. He was our TA provider, technical assistance provider, back in 2003 and 2004. And so he is the actual genius behind Communities That Care. And when we started training young people to understand the science behind prevention, we ended up bringing Kyrie, Joseph, Robert, my son Dylan, and several others to 22 different cities across the nation, to Congress, to the State House, to council, all behind the research-based practices that Carlton Hall taught us. And those guys have been doing well ever since, and all because of the kind of work that Brother Carlton has basically taught us to do back in those early days. And so now he's on his own doing some work, and he's doing a lot of global work. Thank you, Carlton. And then lastly, I have my mother in the audience, and I have my brother in my family. Mom, stand up once again. And brother, Ronnie. Thank you. And so, folks, that's it for all of my comments for the night, because we got a program to move on. Excuse me? Glendon Thames. We have the council president, Glendon Thames, who almost couldn't make it tonight. So she moved some stuff around and she got here. And thank you, Glendon, for getting down here. I appreciate it. And I almost had a problem finding her a seat, too. That's probably how I almost forgot you. Okay, but anyway, I know I'm probably missing other folks. But listen, we got a heavy program tonight. We got a lot of folks, and there's a reason why there are so many people that we're recognizing inside the program. And I'm asking each of them, and Winston will reinforce this, to share just a minute. Some of them not going to even say that. They're just going to come up, get their awards, sit down. Those of you who are long, no more than 2 minutes. But check it out. I want folks to understand something. We're going to be out of here by 9 o'clock, I can assure you of that, okay? We don't mess around, all right? But I can assure you this. There's a reason why there are so many people who are receiving awards. This organization was founded on the fact that when it came down to dealing with some of the most entrenched issues around youth violence and challenges in our streets and our communities, the people that we are recognizing are individuals who have, for the last 20 years, have not only just, they didn't just support me, they were out there in this community keeping everyone safe. From a prevention, intervention standpoint, from the hospital, clinical standpoint, you name it, a whole range of folks who actually have been implementing very effective strategies to keep folks safe inside our community. And these are the people, folks, that, by the way, once they're gone, if we don't replicate, if we don't seek to try to reinforce or get these strategies back in place, and the folks that you're seeing recognized tonight, we're going to see a bunch of brain trust lost. And so when you hear and you read about who these folks are and you see why we're recognizing them, you'll see why it's very critically important that we start looking at building our bench strength, making sure that we transfer this knowledge that these young men and women that we're recognizing tonight, so that we continue to provide the kind of support that our children and families need in our community to keep them safe so they can be successful in their careers. So that's enough for me right now. I'm going to bring up one of my mentors, who is Mr. Winston Johnson. And everyone knows Winston. Come on up, Winston. Winston Johnson worked for the Hartford Public Schools for over 35 years as a social worker and a social work administrator. He retired back in 2015. He served under probably 18 or 19 superintendents, at least. And in fact, he was a social worker when in the old Sims Street jail. And anyone that remembers that, just think about the old Newgate prison. That was back in the 1800s. Okay? That's how long he goes back. But he is the dean of social work, and he has mentored legions of social workers in this industry and so forth. And he knows literally every last one of our awardees, and I felt there would be no one more deserving or no one more qualified to be our MC tonight, that everyone that you would see being recognized tonight has a great degree of respect for. So my brother Winston, thank you for accepting the honor.
Good evening, all. As Andrew mentioned, my name is Winston Johnson. I'm a product of the Hartford community, born and raised, educated, and worked in the Hartford Public Schools for 35 years and 9 months, and have held a variety. And I say 9 months, and people always ask, well, why 9 months? I said, you can have a baby in 9 months. A lot can happen. And I certainly cannot begin to tell you all the things that have happened in this community and in this nation in the last week. When we talk about babies and raising kids and looking out for the community, nothing is more valued than being able to celebrate 20 years of Hartford Community Services that are relevant for what we're dealing with today. When I got the call from Andrew, and I was a little reluctant to do it, and he told me who was being honored, and I just was, it was a great opportunity to be able to celebrate some folks that have worked hard and given their life, their families, and their commitment to Hartford while they are above ground. I think it's extremely important. I can't begin to tell you since Thanksgiving how many funerals I've gone to, how many testimonies, how many folks that we've had to say goodbye to and had an opportunity to thank them for all that they have done and valued and given to the Hartford community. As being a product of the Hartford community, and Andrew alluded to the fact that I'm going to ask the honorees to speak very quickly and briefly, but I have the mic so I can say a little bit before he yanks me off of the platform. But growing up in Hartford, and we're watching our city die in one respect. If you look at the greenery, those that grew up in Hartford and Keeney Park and along all the different streets in the north end and the south end, that a lot of our trees and our foliage is dying, and our community needs revitalization. But we cannot do that without recognizing those forefathers that came before us. And this vanguard of individuals that we're recognizing tonight are second to none. I've had the opportunity, and we should applaud them. I've had the opportunity to work with them as they work with families, work with children. We've cried at funerals, at deaths, and a variety of different violent situations. But nevertheless, we've always been a community of compassion and working together. And I'm here to really salute them, but also give them an opportunity to share a little piece of themselves, but also to be recognized by such a great organization. The first person that I'd like to recognize, and we're going to follow the program as written on page 5 in the booklet. Individual of mine who I watched grow, develop, move into leadership capacity, became a former representative, helped forge the vision to train youth in public policy, communication skills, peer leadership, and education. He was a leader in the Greater Hartford Alliance of Black Social Workers. He's given his blood, sweat, and tears. We worked together closely at the old Sims Street jail. I watched him grow and develop, and I cannot be more proud of the young man and leadership that he has become over the years. He's a true mentor, a colleague, and I love him. As Kenneth Green, would you please approach him?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
They said I had 2 minutes, but I was sitting at my table. Representative Hall is going to time me. Steve Harris said I can have his 2 minutes, and then somebody else gave me 2 minutes, so I actually have 6 minutes. 6 minutes. First of all, I want to just thank Andrew Woods and the Hartford Communities That Care for this acknowledgement. 20 years ago, Andrew and I worked together on the youth summits, and we had a great group of young people who we talked about violence prevention. I remember BET getting involved with us, a number of folks getting involved with us. As I moved on, Andrew decided that he wanted to form Hartford Communities That Care to establish an agency in the city of Hartford to help our young people and to help our families. 20 years later, we have wonderful work being done by Andrew and his organization. I thank you. I thank Winston Johnson. Winston Johnson was my first supervisor at his old Sim Street jail when I returned home after college. He's been a friend and a mentor, and we continue to love each other. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Hartford Communities That Care.
Another individual that's close to my heart is a product of the Hartford community as well. He's a graduate of Weaver High School, former firefighter. And one of the things that's interesting about firefighters, first responders. And to be a first responder, Stephen has always been the individual that I go to test the pulse of the city of Hartford. His knowledge, his advocacy, and his ability to foresight and understand the issues are second to none. He's a former city councilman. He's the first, helped first to secure the funding for the first official program. And one thing about Stephen is he's a product of Hartford, born and raised, rooted in Hartford, and is married to my first cousin. So again, we cuz. So without further ado, Steve.
Good evening, all. Seeing I graciously gave my 2 minutes to Ken Green, I won't be long. Let me say this, though. I'm a true Hartfordite. I'm from the 06120. And I say that proudly. 06120. But let me also add that the 06120 is one of the poorest zip codes in the state of Connecticut. And I don't say that with any shame because there's good people that live in poor places. I'm not ashamed of being from North Hartford. I'm not ashamed of being from the 06120 because that's who I am. Let me say this. I can't imagine Hartford without Hartford Communities That Care. Because when we talk about soldiers, these are true soldiers. These are true soldiers. And you know what I wrestle with is sometimes soldiers are underappreciated. Sometimes we forget what soldiers stand for and what they do every day. I was a firefighter for 27 years. I saw a lot of things. I remember getting that call early in the morning, going out and seeing the things that I saw. Imagine this. Every time there's a tragedy in this city, Hartford Communities That Care get a call. I'm also a combat veteran from Vietnam, 11 Bravo, infantry. I understand what PTSD does to folks. You're looking at someone who has PTSD. You're looking at someone who's been in combat. Let me say this to you, and I see Brother Frank Barrows, I know he knows as well. Let me say this to you. Don't take folks like Hartford Communities That Care for granted. Because if you ever wake up one day and they're not here, guess what? Think about that. So I want to say to Andrew, Hartford Communities That Care, I can't imagine Hartford without you, brother.
This is for you. Thank you, Steve. The next individual is a former vice principal at Lewis Fox Middle School, another of my old stomping grounds. Her family is a legend in the Hartford community as well, born and rooted in love and music and a passion, and a family that's extremely supportive of her. She also was an advocate for the Stump the Violence program that originally kicked off with Hartford Communities That Care. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Angela Thomas.
Well, since Reverend Harris summed it up, I won't have to say anything other than it was an honor to have been part of, from the very beginning, the Stump the Violence Youth Leadership Institute and Hartford Communities That Care. It's our responsibility to do something. If you do nothing, then you're part of the problem. It's as simple as that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joshua Fee. I'm a member of Hartford Communities That Care Youth Leadership Academy and the Vice President of the NAACP Greater Hartford Youth Council. For the past 27 weeks, we have been examining the intersection between education, poverty, violence, and trauma, and coming up with program and policy recommendations to improve in these areas. I serve on the Violence and Trauma Work Group, and we recommend the following. Support hospital-linked violence prevention program. This hospital and law enforcement partnership needs to be fully supported with resources to assist victims of violent crimes. Reboot the Governor's Commission on Youth and Urban Violence to examine the root causes of violence and develop effective policies for the state of Connecticut and its cities. Increase job opportunities for young people and adults to reduce poverty and improve their standard of living. Thank you for your time, and I hope you can support our recommendations.
The next individual, Dr. Mark McKinney, he's the Vice Principal of Trinity St. Francis Hospital, co-founder of Hartford Communities That Cares, and the hospital is linked to the Violence Prevention Program. It has a lot to do with the analysis and care and understanding the trends that are impacting our communities on a day-to-day basis, and the immense support that he has given Andrew and crew is second to none. So with Dr. Mark McKinney, please, front and center.
Thank you so much. I'll be very brief. I want to stand here first to express our love and appreciation for so many here, certainly for Andrew, his team. Most of the time we meet in the emergency department, so I want to say on behalf of them that we love this group. We know you do too, and we hope that the support that's needed, and there's so much needed, grows every year. So on behalf of that team that includes Dr. Steve Wolf and the nurses and security, there are very few people that could welcome in a community group like I think we've seen, and that's because of Andrew and the way in which he handles himself and bridges to the community. And lastly, I would say we're indebted to the community itself. Andrew, I think you'd agree with me that we serve in a remarkable community that welcomes us at the worst time in life for many of these families and allows us to listen and bridge the worlds of a hospital crazy system, if I could say that, and a community that's coming from a neighborhood and then you add to that a trauma. And I believe that this is a wonderful opportunity to raise up a blessing we have of a community that welcomes you and I in. Thank you so much.
The next individual is a former Hartford Community That Care 7th grader, participant in the program, and he turned the Deputy Director of Hartford Community Hartford Communities That Care, and is currently a candidate for the Executive MBA program at UConn. I'm going to welcome Joseph Wilkerson, but where is he? Here he is. And I think one of the things that's extremely important is that you carry the roof and carry the legacy on.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank, for one, Mr. Woods, because he's been an awesome, and awesome is an understatement, of the kind of person that he's been. And for those of you that know the caliber of person that he is, his ultimate goal was to make sure that he mentored young people like myself and like many others that's come before him. And you know, I just want to say, in this program it says former HCTC 7th grader. It's actually former Stump program 7th grader. So before HCTC was formed, I was there. And so, you know, and I'm not saying that lightly, and Carlton, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in years. But you know, I don't say that lightly. I'm saying that because, you know, Stump was the foundation to what you see here today. It was the foundation to the leadership, to, you know, everything that you see in terms of, you know, everything that we've built, everything that we've become. It all started at Stump with those young people that came up in the program. And it was Miss Angela Thomas that got me involved in this program. And so, you know, and I thank her for that. And I thank Mr. Woods for his leadership. If it wasn't for them, I would not be where I am today. And it's because of their leadership why young people like me are able to excel and to move forward. And we're able to break boundaries and glass ceilings because of that leadership. And so I owe this to Mr. Woods. Thank you.
The next two individuals are listed together, and I'm going to call them up separately and keep them together. How's that? Pastor James Lane and Reverend Cornell Lewis, both were men of color. And during turmoil times, issues that were going on in our Hartford public schools, there was a vanguard of young men that came out and walked our kids to school, made sure that they were safe on the avenue, and these youngsters will never forget what you have given to them over the years. So without further ado, I want to thank them both. Pastor Lang.
One of the things that's always important when we do these kind of things, I'm glad that my wife did not leave me. When you do these kind of things, sometimes things happen in your household. But I'm thankful for a wonderful wife who was supportive. And we still have a lot of work to do. And I'm not finished yet. And so if we fail to capture the imagination of our young people, we will fail. So let's continue to work, and I'm going to continue to support Mr. Woods and Hartford's Communities That Care, and hopefully God will bless us in the fact that we will do justice and love mercy and try to walk humbly with our God.
Mr. Lewis is one of the vanguard supporters and avid reader and knowledge and theorist, and without further ado, Cornell Lewis.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, I would just like to thank Andrew Woods, Hartford Communities That Care, and all of the people here in the audience who marched with the men and women of color as we walked kids to school, shut down crack houses, and ran the drug dealers out of neighborhood after neighborhood over a 10-year period. It was a long fight. It was an ugly fight. And I would like to thank all of the people, including Reggie Hales in his newspaper, who stood by me when 20 Love put a contract on my life and I had to move my family out of town. I'd like to thank all those people who stood by me as we took care of the problem. And we did take care of the problem. So I would just like to thank everybody for that. And for those who are thinking about getting involved in social protests, remember the words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. I cannot escape death, but can I not escape the dread of it? We cannot escape all events, for they will happen in any way. But we can, through an act of our will, determine how we face that which is inevitable. Why therefore should we fear? There's nothing to fear but fear itself. Say I was one of those people that Andrew texted about the 2 minutes.
Another product of the Hartford community, born and raised in a vanguard. A brother that we've worked together in so many different capacities and has given his blood to the Hartford community. That's Brother Carl Hardrick.
Maybe I ought to run for office. Well, they say it ain't the man, it's the plan. It ain't the rap, it's the map. If you don't know what you're doing in this field, you're going to fall on your head. So you got to know the difference between the floor and the ceiling. It's, you know, with Andrew, I mean, we've been up and down. Every situation that we thought, people always ask us, how do you do that? How do you walk into a situation where there's gun violence? How do you just go, well, you just, you know, are you afraid? And we have learned that we walk in fear. We just walk into it. And we just pray that God put us there for that reason and that he's protecting us. It's interesting. I was thinking about what should I say, and I have a lot to say, but I can't. Andrew will kill me. You know, I know one thing, he can write the script. I can tell the story. But I just want to talk about one situation that happened with his board member. And Andrew always bring you, he says, Brother Carl, we got a bad situation with a board member. And it's this individual, and they were on Enfield Street, and something happened with a person that he was related to, and we got to get on top of this because it's getting very serious. And, you know, as we investigated, it was more serious than I thought. You know, with 2 individuals had an incident that happened, and the individual happened to move in the wrong building. And I said, well, why would that individual move there? And he said, I don't know, but that wasn't the right place to move. But we got to figure out how we solve this. So as we went forward, then the other individual, he's from LA. He's a blood. You know, he's about to call all the bloods from LA. I don't know how they're going to get here. I can make a phone call, Brother Kyle. You know, we sat down with them and tried to figure out what happened. But what they didn't know, that we knew everybody in the street. Even though we were in the suites, we knew everybody in the streets. So when he started talking about this and what happened, we said, look, we're going to solve this the next day. We ran into the two individuals they were having beef with. You always got to take them to lunch. Andrew, you know, you take them to McDonald's. But we took them to McDonald's, we had this, and they were like, how did y'all know about this? And we said, look, man, how do we squash this? You can assure us that because it's got ugly, people were shooting through people's windows, and it was about to be, someone was about to be killed. And when we sat down with them for an hour and a half, that situation was squashed. I mean, we never leave any challenge unheard. Now, as we travel on, as we went into the suites of Washington, state capitol, seeking funds, we always got the funds, but we never got none of it. It always seemed to win from everybody else. $3.7 million we lobby on prevention. Not a dime came through Hartford Communities That Care. I said, what happened, Andrew? We set up a piggy bank for everybody but us. So, and then there was a $10 million fund that came. What happened to it? Everybody's at the table but us. So we continue to struggle because our commitment was never about money. We were committed about the struggle and changing lives. Thank you.
Another vanguard in the city of Hartford, worked for the city, seasoned youth development practitioner who also mentored countless intervention specialists and also co-founded Hartford Communities That Care's hospital link to violence intervention program and a founding board member of Hartford Community That Care. Chuck Cummings is an individual who I have all the respect for and welcome him back to Hartford today and glad to see her.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be honoree among such great men and women. I don't have to say too much. Carl then gave you the script and everything what's going on with Hartford Communities That Care. But it's an honor, though. I was listening to Steve Harris speak earlier. Steve knew me when I was a young dude. And one thing I love about brothers like Steve and Brother Carl, they made things happen for us in Bellevue Square, Gardner Street, where we came from, and provide structure for us. So it taught me to give back to my community. It's important for me to be a role model for all the young brothers that have been coming up behind me. And it's important for me, like Brother Winston Johnson, when I went into social work, I didn't know what I was doing, but I had role models and great men like Winston that helped me and Andrew when we came through the gate. So it's important for all of us to give back. Everyone in this room need to give back as much as they can. It's important for us. You know, the streets are still dangerous, but people like the people in this room can make a difference. So thank you.
The next individual is a beacon of safety and support within our communities and helped the founding boards of Hartford Communities That Care. She is a tireless mother and is loved by all. And without further ado, Ms. Hetty Hatters. As gracious as ever.
Good evening to everyone. Let me say thank God for being here. I thank God for HCTC, and I have mentors. That's Mr. Andrew Woods, Chuck Cummins, Carl Hodrick, and Cornell Lewis. I would not be in this position if it was not for them. The troubles that we were having on Vine Street, I called them, and we would sit out there all night long to run the drug dealers and the killers and whatever that was in the neighborhood that wasn't doing any good or helping anyone. And I can say that I have been on Vine Street for 22 years. I'm still there, still working in the community. And I just want to say thanks, especially to my friend, my buddy, my mentor, Mr. Andrew Woods.
The next individual is a dynamic youth development practitioner. He's a master facilitator, a community organizer, a program manager, and a true friend. Loyal, father, and loved one, Kevin Lovejoy. Still got some energy too.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Woods and all the people that support Mr. Woods. Definitely, our relationship is based on late night phone calls. And he just say, I'm coming to pick you up. And we wind up in some alley somewhere or some street corner. And then from there, we wind up at the hospital. But the work is so serious that we are dealing with in the city of Hartford on a continuous basis. And I just happened to be at a meeting the other day, and of course they were presenting the city plan where trying to address the violence in our community that is currently going on. And I really want to end out with this, and that is that when the men in our community stand up, the violence will end. And with that said, one man that has stood up on a consistent basis is Mr. Andrew Woods. Thank you very much.
Last but not least, long-standing individual with a long-standing commitment to the present positive and thoughtful, informative information concepts of Hartford Communities That Care, and with a focus on the African American community. Reggie Hales worked with the Enquirer News, and we'd like to certainly recognize him today for all that he has given. Thank you.
Andrew, can you come here a second, please? Andrew, can you come here a second, please? Just can't stand over there and hold up the wall. I want my picture taken with you. First of all, I wake up every day because of God. I wake up to do what I do because of my roots. I'm inspired by those in our communities that have come before us. You know, that generation that came from down south, stopped picking cotton, came up here, worked in the factories, and made a family for themselves. And we're the offspring of that. At the end of the day, The reason our community looks and is the way it is today is because we've lost the elders. The kids did not stay in the house. They wanted to move over to the burbs where they're not welcome. And a new generation and a new culture of people came in. But I ask God every day, do not take my life until I can continue to make a change and be a positive change in my community. And I only want to do that with like-minded people. Some people have made it to the mountaintop and forgot where they came from. But I will say this in closing. Last week you heard the city of Hartford say that they're going to be reactive to the violence. They're bringing in the state. The city's going to work with federal enforcement agencies. And some of us remember that was done before. But it's quite funny how we can find money to be reactive, but we can't support the boots on the ground like Andrew Woods and his organization to be proactive. So I take this privilege that I have to be a journalist and publish this paper. This year we will celebrate 50 years. 13 years post my father's death. My son knows how to do it and my daughter knows how to do it. My goal is to create an endowment so that this paper can go on for infinity. A black newspaper in our community and around the state of Connecticut is needed more today than ever before in our lives. There was a time 2 years ago when I got so depressed, I cried every damn day of depression, because we have come so far and some of us forgot where we come. Politicians, teachers, students, this, that, or the other. And our ancestors are turning in their grave. Some people are more concerned about their resume than they are about the true job that they were told and taught and meant to do. So I said to a close friend who has a business on Barber Street, I said, you know, I feel like moving my office to Bridgeport because these folks in Hartford just don't want to get it together. Every time somebody new come from another state, they say, what is wrong with y'all black folks in Hartford? I said, I don't know. Maybe it's a little selfishness, spoiledness, this, that, or the other. But down to the core, we are Hartford. In Hartford, we are united. And as long as there's a problem and we can't take it no more, we will stand up and do something about it. But we can no longer be a minority without no majority rule. So, Mr. Woods, it is not only that I take this award with appreciation, but I take it close to my heart, and my family says to you, and I say to you, and my ancestors say to you, thank you. I will support you to the day I die. And I appreciate all the work that you do. And you know it's past my bedtime. I'm tired as hell.
Serve dinner.
No, you go do your piece. Yep, okay, yep. And we know that the only thing standing between this is this last presentation. Andrew wants to make a special presentation, and we allow him an opportunity to do that.
While they're serving dinner, please serve the dinner. Please serve the dinner. And while they're serving the dinner, there is a guest here. There are some folks here tonight who are not on the program, but they are a special guest of some of our board members. Mothers United Against Violence, please come up. Mothers United Against Violence, please come up. That's right. Come on up. Hold that. while they're serving dinner. And anybody knows the reason why they're getting this standing ovation is because these women here are mothers who have lost their sons to gun violence. In the city of Hartford, you got fathers like Winston Kennedy, who has lost his son to gun violence, and folks who are out here every day supporting other parents, supporting other siblings that have lost their children and loved ones and are out here battling every day. There's not a family that has lost their family in this city in the last 20 years that have not gotten the support from this organization. Not one family. This organization has supported them. Thank you. All right, please enjoy dinner, and we're going to...
Andrew, would you stand here for a minute? Will LaShonda Williams please approach the podium? While they're serving dinner.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not LaShonda, I'm actually Cynthia. LaShonda's my daughter here. Andrew, come on over, please. I can remember back years ago sitting in a room in Fox Middle School in the north end of Hartford, community members, school officials, parents, even teens, having a discussion on what we should name this new mission that we would continue to help combat violence in the city of Hartford by implementing evidence-based programs. Input from everyone was always important to you because you cared so much about our community. You cared so much about Hartford, the entire city. And that's how Hartford Communities That Care came into existence. I can remember the formation of the first Hartford Crisis Response Team with collaboration with St. Francis Hospital. We came together under your leadership to respond and to assist violent crime victims, whether it was in the hospitals, whether it was in homes, and while it was also in schools. Now, I can't forget the Peace Builders. We were first there when it was first formed in the city of Hartford, under your leadership, handling violent crimes that affected youth between the ages of 13 to 18. You are remarkable. You, Mr. Woods, are remarkable. You have trained me. You have trained many others, even those that received awards, on stopping the violence by assisting the families during the most crucial time of need. We can't thank you enough for all the work that you have done, the long hours, the tears, the training that you have completed yourself, and also the training that you have provided us, the families, the communities in the city of Hartford, in spite of low funds, and then sometimes in spite of no funds. Make sure y'all give tonight. You, Mr. Woods, in spite of all that, you still rise up daily, unafraid. You rise up doing this work over and over and over and over again. You, Mr. Woods, have risen out of your bed over 1,000 times. again and again and again, answering the calls for our city, answering the calls for our community, answering the calls for the youth and the families in the city of Hartford. And we can't thank you enough. We can't thank him enough. 20 years, remarkable. Thank you for rising up. One second.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round. When you can find a fighter by seeing you so we can walk it out. Move mountains, we can walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you.
And in closing the honorary production that was presented here today, as a really special occasion, we want to thank the families that have come out and the individuals that are here to support the honorees and the work that's done. I would be remiss to not mention one individual that is a mentor of mine who through the years probably doesn't even know how important he is and the difference he's made in my life. And that's Senator Frank Barrows. I just want to take the opportunity to recognize you. Product of Martin Street, the north end of Hartford, where we grew up, and he was definitely a mentor of mine. So God bless you, and thank each and every one of you for coming out. There is a donor envelope on your table, and we sure hope that there's enough to go around. If not, put the money in it together. But at least in your own time, in your own way, contribute to support the Hartford Communities That Care and Andrew Wood's efforts. And we thank each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy your meal.
Hello, my name is Deja Borns. I am a member of the Youth Leadership Program of Hartford Communities That Care. We have been examining the intersection between education, poverty, violence, and trauma for the past 27 weeks and to develop policy and program recommendations. I served on the poverty work group, and the following is our recommendations. Organize resources to support entrepreneurs, expand efforts to provide high-qualified mentors for teens, place priority on investments in affordable, high-quality childcare and early education, focus on giving people the tools to start new enterprises that will improve their circumstances and spur economic growth, as well as removing barriers to small business growth. Repair and strengthen the safety net to make sure there are safeguards in place that apply equally to all people. Reduce the large gaps between the very rich and the rest of society and make it easier for people to get into the middle class. Also, to address the gaps that persist for African Americans in educational attainment, employment wages and income, family wealth and home ownership, health and infant mortality and incarceration.
Thank you for your time, and I hope you could support our recommendations.
Good evening. As you all may know, my name is Damari Borns, and I have the distinct honor and privilege to introduce our keynote speaker. A 38-year-old YMCA professional, Kevin Washington, is the 14th person and first African American to lead the Y in the United States. He came to YMCA of the USA in February 2015 from the YMCA of Greater Boston, where, as president and CEO from 2010 to 2014, he expanded membership and access by reducing rates, increased diversity and engagement among the board of directors to better reflect the community, and implemented a childhood education quality initiative that benefits thousands of children and families throughout Eastern Massachusetts. Prior to Boston, Washington served as president and CEO of the YMCA of Greater Hartford from 2000 to 2010. And under his leadership, the Hartford YMCA invested more than $60 million to develop or expand 8 facilities and camps. He was Chief Operating Officer for the YMCA of Metropolitan Chicago from 1995 to 2000, and previously held other executive roles from the Chicago YMCA and the Philadelphia Freedom Valley YMCA. He got his start in the Y as a youth program director at the Philadelphia YMCA's Christian Street branch in 1978. Washington earned a bachelor's degree in history from Temple University. It's my distinct honor and privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Kevin Washington.
So Andrew said that we're going to finish by 9 o'clock. It is 8:42 or 8:37, so that means I got about 26 minutes. I will only use 24. First of all, let me say how glad I am to be back in Hartford. But back in Hartford for a number of reasons. One, to celebrate your 20-year celebration for the Hartford community that cares. Number two, to relate again to Andrew Woods and understand distinctly the dedication that he has to ensure that the Hartford community reaches its full potential. He is that caring soldier that carries that with him every day. So Andrew, congratulations to you and your dedication to the Hartford community. And the third reason I'm here is because my good friend, board member, par excellence leader, doesn't like to be recognized, Joanne Price. So before I start my formal remarks, I'm going to say the YMCA talks about strengthening the foundation of community. Strengthening the foundation of community. The work that the Hartford community that cares is doing personifies that in real life. This is how communities strive and thrive, with caring, nurturing adults that provide a pathway for our young people to reach their full potential. That's what a caring community is like, and you are strengthening the foundations of community in Hartford. So I thank you for that. So, all kids, no matter where they're from or where they live, deserve to feel safe and secure. And all kids deserve a chance to reach their full potential. That's what we believe in the Y, and I know everyone gathered here tonight shares that belief. Tonight, though, I'm going to direct my remarks to the young people in the audience. Whenever I speak to young people. My goal is to inspire them, to give them something important to think about as they continue along on that youth development journey. And of course, I try not to bore them in the process. It's a big job. So tonight, I am going to enlist the help of someone who is known for giving a good speech or two in his day. In fact, I'm going to make reference to one of his most famous speeches, one I had the distinct pleasure of witnessing in person. On October 26th, 1967, please do not do the math, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered a speech at Barrett Junior High School in South Philadelphia. It is known as his "What is Your Life's Blueprint" speech. I was 13 years old and a ninth grader at Barrett at the time. On the day of Dr. King's speech, I was seated front row, center in the school auditorium. And to all the pastors in this room, you know that the pastors, particularly the Baptist pastors, wore those black mohair suits with sheen on them. I had the opportunity to almost see my face in that suit. That night, Dr. King will also host a Stars for Freedom show. If any of you remember, that's how they raised their money, doing freedom shows. A few miles from the Barrett at what was then the Spectrum. Entertainers at that show included Aretha Franklin, Harry Belafonte, and Sidney Poitier. So, you could have forgiven Dr. King for being distracted or mailing in a speech to a bunch of junior high schoolers. Instead, he gave a rousing 20-minute address laying out what he believed should be in our life's blueprint, how we could reach our full potential regardless of our circumstances. I wish I could tell you that at age 13, I had wisdom and foresight beyond my years, and that I immediately took everything Dr. King said that day to heart. I wish I could tell you that. But honestly, at that time, I was pretty sure I was going to play in the NBA. That was my full and only blueprint in junior high school. Professional basketball remained my dream until the summer of 1975, the summer after my junior year at Temple University. That's when I played in a summer league against NBA players. I had the opportunity to go up against somebody that at that time was named Lloyd Free, who changed his name to World B. Free. Needless to say, it didn't go well for me, and the experience set me on a different path. As I look back now, I realize the lessons Dr. King imparted that day in October of 1967 did stick with me, even if they didn't capture my attention at the time. I want to share his advice with you this evening, young folks, through the prism of my own experience. My hope is that it will resonate with you as well, regardless of your current state of your blueprint. In the words of Dr. King, and I quote, "Number one in your life's blueprint should be a deep belief in your own dignity, your own worth, and your own somebodyness." Keep in mind that he was speaking to a room full of black students at the height of the civil rights struggle. He knew we may not always have felt as if we counted, or that our lives had significance. So he was building us up. It worked. I am the first African American to hold the job I hold now, President and CEO of the YMCA of the USA. I was also the first African American to hold 3 previous jobs as well, here in Hartford and Boston and at the Chicago YMCA. I've been fortunate throughout my life to have great mentors, and I heard that word spoken about so often this evening. People who saw potential in me that I didn't even see in myself. People who were willing to advocate on my behalf. People who made sure I counted. I would not be where I am without them. And young people, those people do matter, so listen to them. That is why the Hartford Community That Cares mentoring program is so important. A mentor can help you build a life that is more successful and more rewarding than you could ever imagined. And I'm living proof of that. My hope for you is that you never face an obstacle to achievement based on any dimension of diversity. But even if that's the case, there will be people who tell you you can't, or you shouldn't, or you won't. Don't listen to them. Don't let anyone else define who you are. Be comfortable in your own skin, be confident in your own abilities, and make good things happen. Secondly, Dr. King told us, in your life's blueprint, you must have a basic principle, the determination to achieve excellence in your various fields of endeavor. Once I realized the MBA wasn't going to work, I needed to redraw my blueprint. But one of the best decisions I ever made was following my passion for helping kids, which led me back to the why. I say back to the why because the organization has been a part of my life since I was 10 years old. I'm only 22 now. Thanks to the Christian Street YMCA in South Philadelphia, I avoided the negative influence and tragic circumstances that plagued other kids in my neighborhood. Drugs, gangs, crime. I spent my after-school hours studying and playing hoops, which led to my basketball scholarship to Temple. The why changed the trajectory of my life. So when I had the opportunity after college to work at the Christian Street Y as a youth director, I jumped at it. I wanted to give back to make sure other kids from my neighborhood had the same opportunities I did. 40 years and many different roles later, I'm still a youth director at heart. I wake up every morning and I go to bed every night thinking about how the why can transform kids' lives and make the world a better place for them. This has never felt like a job for me. The lesson in my experience for all of you is that it's easy to do your best, to achieve excellence in your field of endeavor, to quote Dr. King, if you are passionate about what you do. So follow your passion in school and out of school. It is a sure path to fulfillment. Finally, Dr. King told us, in your life's blueprint must be a commitment to external principles of beauty, love, and justice. You have a responsibility to seek to make life better for everybody. And so you must, I'm talking to you young people, hear me out. You must be involved in the struggle for freedom and justice. The struggle for freedom and justice continues in this country 40 years after Dr. King made these remarks at my junior high school. We need all of you involved in the struggle. The playing field in our country today is not level. We hear the stories all the time. The Y is active in 10,000 communities nationwide, and we work every day to address the effects of disparities and inequities that exist in these communities. Robert Kennedy said, "Each time a man stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lives of others or strikes out injustice against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope." I implore you to send forth enough ripples to build a tidal wave for freedom and justice. We must stand for ourselves before we can expect others to stand for us. About 6 months after Dr. King spoke at Barrett Junior High School, he would be assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. I have never taken for granted how lucky I was to hear him speak in person. How lucky my schoolmates and I were that the greatest civil rights leader in our nation's history chose to speak at a junior high school in South Philadelphia. His message that day was simple, but powerful. Believe in your own value as a person, strive to be the best at what you do, seek freedom and justice for all people. This guidance has been invaluable to me throughout my life. I hope it will be to all of you as well. It has been my esteemed privilege to be here with you this evening. Thank you to Andrew and his team for the invitation. Thank you for your attention. Most importantly, thank you for your continued strength, your continued focus on ensuring that Hartford Communities That Care has the necessary resources to provide a pathway for our young people to reach their full potential. God bless you, and thank you for having me this evening.
You know something? Hartford's strength is the people. They're independent thinkers and love their city. So how did Hartford fall into the hands of rogue policymakers? Well, to start, this rogue group spent nearly $1 million putting themselves on the inside and leaving you out in the cold. What if I told you that $5 can be the difference between a Hartford with hope and vision or a Hartford that is in perpetual decline, increasing crime, and an educational system going nowhere fast? Your $5 contribution to our team is a statement that you are investing in Hartford's future. Your $5 contribution to McCauley for mayor will make you a member of the team, and together we will explore the possibilities. More than that, you will be demonstrating that Hartford's people are ready to make a stand with Stan. Our goal is to get the support of 5,000 people who live, work, and play in Hartford. I'm asking you to make a bold statement by contributing $5 right now, today. If you believe in Hartford and its people like I do, make that contribution. And together we will show Connecticut that the people of Hartford care enough to do our part. We are ready to pick up the ball and run. The people of Hartford are back in the game, and we're in it to win. My name is J. Sam McCauley, and I approve this message.
Well, hopefully we all had a good time. Am I correct in saying that? All had a good time. Well, somebody said it's been a ball, but the clock on the wall says time to go now. We got one more thing.
The flower arrangements, not the vases, not the vase, but the flowers you can take home, but under your seats, the staff said, under your seats there's a ticket or something, a piece of paper, a lucky number or something under your seat, and if you happen to have it, then you are the lucky winner. You're the lucky winner of the bouquet. All right? Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, in way of a benediction, somebody's got something here. I'd like for us all to stand if we could. Could we all stand? One of the things that is so important in these times that we live in today is the aspect that I recall a word called, can you say this word, Ubuntu? Say it again, Ubuntu. Now that's an African phrase from a community that simply means there's no me without we. There's no me without we. And so we all are interconnected. So if you would, just grab your neighbor's hand. Grab your neighbor's hand for a few seconds. Grab their hand. Don't be scared of them. Grab their hand. Father God, we ask in the mighty name of Christ that you might go with us, bless us, help us to get busy with this work, and help us to be sustained in this work, and help us to reduce this violence that plagues not just this city, but this country. Not only physical violence, but even the violence of silence. So help us to leave this place committed to do a better job. We asked it in your name. Amen. Have a great evening, folks.